Danil's ship shook as it broke through the upper layers of the alien planet's atmosphere. Alarms were screaming inside the cockpit. Smoke filled the cabin. Sparks shot from the panels. He gripped the controls tightly, struggling to keep the ship steady. The navigation systems had failed, and his radio was dead. He had no way to call for help. His mission had been simple: observe, scan, and return. But now, everything had gone wrong. An unexpected energy surge from the planet had knocked his ship out of orbit. There was no time to figure out what happened. All he could do was try to land without dying. Below him, the planet's surface came into view: mountains of black stone, rivers of glowing red, and strange metallic towers rising high like jagged claws. It wasn't what the mission brief had described. This was not a peaceful world. Danil pulled hard to one side, trying to aim for a flat stretch of land near the edge of a canyon. The ship came down fast. Too fast. He braced himself. The impact hit like thunder. The ship slammed into the ground, bouncing once, then sliding across the rocky surface before crashing into a cliffside. Metal groaned and bent. The cockpit shattered. Danil's head struck the side of his seat, and darkness took him. He didn't know how long he was out, but when his eyes opened, everything hurt. Smoke was still rising around him. His arm was bleeding, and a deep cut across his chest burned with every breath. The ship was ruined. Systems were down. Supplies were scattered. He knew he had to get out fast. With effort, Danil pulled himself from the wreckage. Each step felt like walking through fire. He stumbled over broken panels and wires until he reached the outside. The air was heavy, but breathable. He dropped to his knees and tried to catch his breath. Then he saw them. Figures appeared from the haze, tall beings in armor that shimmered like dark crystal. Their helmets had no faces, only smooth black surfaces. They held long weapons shaped like staffs, and their movements were quiet and fast. They surrounded him without speaking. Danil raised his hands. "I'm not here to fight," he said, though he knew they wouldn't understand. One of the soldiers stepped forward. It touched a small device on its wrist. A light scanned Danil from head to toe. The soldier paused, then turned to the others and gave a sharp nod. Two of them grabbed Danil's arms, not roughly, but firmly. He didn't resist. He didn't have the strength even if he wanted to. His vision blurred. His knees buckled again. As he lost consciousness, he saw a massive structure rising in the distance. A palace carved into the side of the mountain. Its towers reached the clouds. Its walls glowed with soft blue light. That was where they were taking him. Danil awoke on a stone floor inside a wide chamber. The ceiling was high, with beams of white light coming from floating orbs. The air smelled of spice and metal. His chest was wrapped in alien cloth, but the pain was still there. He sat up slowly and looked around. The room was empty except for two guards at the door. They didn't move. They simply watched him. Moments later, the large door slid open without sound. A group of armored figures entered. In the center walked a tall woman dressed in robes of silver and blue. Her hair was long and dark, her skin pale with lines of glowing silver across her face and neck. She wore no crown, but everyone bowed as she passed. Danil realized at once this was someone important. She walked straight to him and stopped just a few steps away. Her violet eyes studied him closely, not with anger, but with curiosity. "What are you?" she asked in a clear, cold voice. Danil blinked. She spoke his language. Or maybe a translator was working. "I'm human," he said. "From Earth." She tilted her head. "Earth? That name is not in our records." Danil coughed and winced at the pain. "I crashed. I didn't mean to land here. My ship something hit it." The woman turned to one of her guards and said something in her native tongue. Then she stepped closer and pointed to his chest. "Remove the bandage," she said. Danil hesitated. The cloth was soaked with blood, but he obeyed, slowly peeling it away. The cut was deep, jagged, and still bleeding slightly, but beneath the surface, his skin was already starting to close. The healing was faster than normal, even for him. He didn't understand it. The queen stared at the wound in silence. Then she took one step back. Her eyes widened. She leaned closer, as if trying to confirm something impossible. Her fingers trembled slightly as she raised them toward his chest. But she didn't touch him. You're not possible, she whispered. Danil frowned. What do you mean? But the queen said nothing more. She turned and walked away quickly, her robes trailing behind her. The guards followed. The doors closed again. Danil was left alone. With the silence, he lay back down, staring at the ceiling. Her words echoed in his mind. Not possible. What did she see in him? He didn't have the answer. But one thing was now clear: this planet had secrets, and he was right in the middle of them. Danil sat against the cold stone wall for what felt like hours. The guards outside his room never moved or spoke. He tried asking for water, food, even answers. But no one responded. He was weak and tired, but his body was healing too fast. Even for him, the cut on his chest had already closed halfway, and the pain had faded. Still, his mind stayed on the queen's words, "You're not possible." What had she seen in him that caused such a strange reaction? The heavy doors opened again. This time, two different guards entered. One held a strange glowing rod, and the other pointed toward the hallway. Danil slowly stood up. "Where are we going?" They didn't answer. One of them gave a short hand signal, urging him forward. Danil followed them out into the long corridor. The palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls shimmered with patterns that moved like flowing water, every few steps floating. Lights hovered in the air, shifting color as they passed. He saw no windows. But the halls were bright. They reached a tall chamber with a high domed ceiling. The guards stepped aside, allowing Danil to enter alone. At the far end stood Queen Almera on her throne. She sat straight, hands resting on her lap. Her silver-lined face looked calm, but her eyes were fixed on him. On both sides of the chamber, advisors stood with narrow faces and long robes. None of them looked pleased to see Danil. Danil stepped forward, keeping his head up. Almera raised a hand. Everyone went silent. "Your name," she said. "Danil. I'm a scout from Earth. Our team was sent to explore nearby systems. I wasn't supposed to land here." She looked at her advisors. "This human says he is a scout from a planet we do not know. A world not marked in any of our records. A ship falls from the sky. Its pilot walks away alive. He heals too quickly. What should we believe?" One advisor, tall with golden cuffs, stepped forward. "He is a spy, Your Majesty. Or a weapon. His kind could be dangerous." Another advisor spoke. "He must be from the old enemy. The stories said they would return." Almera shook her head. "He claims not to know us. He is confused by our world. I saw his wound. No false creature could bleed like that." Danil listened, unsure if he should speak. He didn't understand most of what they meant. Finally, Almera stood. Her steps were slow but firm as she walked down from the throne. The room stayed silent as she approached him. "You don't know who we are, do you?" she asked softly. "No, I've never seen your kind before," Danil replied. "We are Rilleri. We have ruled this system for 10,000 cycles. But long ago, we fought a war against beings not so different from you. That war changed us, and you seem like them." Danil frowned. "I'm just a human. I don't even know what your people fought." Almera studied him. "Your blood healed faster than our tools could track. Your body rejected our scans. Your cells were not simple." Danil touched his chest. "I've always healed fast, but I didn't know it was special." "Special or cursed," the golden-cuffed advisor muttered. Almera ignored him. "You will be tested," she said. "Not to harm you, but to know the truth. If you are what I fear, or what I hope." Danil nodded slowly. "What happens if I pass?" "Then I will protect you," she said. "And if I fail," she looked at him without blinking, "then I may not be able to." The next hour was a blur of strange lights and devices. Danil was taken to a high room filled with floating machines. A soft-voiced alien woman examined him with scanning tools that looked like long silver rods. Lights moved over his skin, and walls displayed symbols he couldn't read. The healer showed no fear, only deep thought. "His heart rate is calm under pressure," she said aloud. "Stronger than expected. muscle fibers denser than most known life forms, healing rate unnatural. Danil sat still, washing her face. She turned to the guards. He is not a clone. He is not made. He is born. But not normal. The guards exchanged looks but said nothing. Later, Danil was led to a small room where a single plate of food waited. The smell was strange but not unpleasant. He ate carefully, unsure of what was safe, but nothing made him sick. As he finished, the door opened again. To his surprise, it was Almera. She stepped in without her guards. Her long robe swept across the floor. Her expression was softer than before. You are calmer than most creatures would be in your place, she said. Danil looked up. I faced death before, crashed on other worlds too, but I've never met anyone like you. Almera's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile. Nor I, anyone like you. She moved closer and sat across from him. Long ago, our ancestors feared beings like you. They called them the first flame, creatures who could not be broken, whose will never bend. Some say they destroyed themselves, others say they were wiped out. Danil shook his head. Humans aren't perfect. We make mistakes, but we're survivors. Yes, she said, watching him. And that is what makes you dangerous. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Almera stood. Tomorrow, your true tests begin. I will not force you, but I ask you to take them. Let us learn who you are. Danil nodded. All right, I'll do it. She paused at the door. One more thing, if you are not possible. As I said, then perhaps it is time to change what we believe is possible. She left, and the door closed behind her. Danil leaned back, feeling the weight of her words. Somehow, on this strange planet, in the middle of ancient fear and unknown truth, his journey had only just begun. The next morning, the light in Danil's chamber shifted from pale blue to soft gold. He had not slept much, but his body felt stronger. The cut on his chest had almost closed. Only a faint red line remained. Even he was surprised at how fast. He was healing. A low hum filled the room. The doors opened. 2 guards waited outside. But this time, they were not silent. One of them spoke in a deep voice. You are to follow. The queen has ordered new trials. Danil stood, still sore but steady. I'm ready, he said. The guards led him through winding halls. The palace seemed even larger than he had first thought. They passed through long tunnels carved from stone and metal, past glowing walls with moving patterns, strange alien. Music played from somewhere, soft and distant. They reached a wide chamber filled with glowing columns and floating screens. Several tall relays stood inside, including the silent healer from before. She nodded to Danil as he entered. We will begin with blood, she said. Danil blinked. Blood, you are different. We must understand how. He didn't resist as she guided him to a table. A smooth metal chair formed beneath him, shaped perfectly to his body. The healer placed a thin band on his arm. It tightened, then released a soft click. A small vial filled with red liquid. Danil watched her take it to a glowing panel. The moment his blood touched the scanner, a sharp beep rang through the room. Symbols flashed. The lights flickered. The healer froze. Other relays stepped closer. They stared at the screen in silence. Then the oldest one, a robed male with silver rings on his arms, leaned forward. This is impossible, he said. Danil stood. What is it? What did you find? The healer turned to him. Her voice was calm but serious. Your blood is not fully natural. It holds energy we have only seen in ancient stories. It carries markers of the first flame. Danil frowned. You mean those beings your queen talked about? She nodded slowly. Yes, but the flame has been gone for thousands of cycles. None of your kind were supposed to survive. I'm not from here. I don't even know what the flame is. Still, it burns inside you, the old one said. Before Danil could speak again, the chamber doors opened. Queen Almera entered with 2 guards. She looked around, then walked to the healer. Show me, she said. The healer handed her the scanner. Almera studied the symbols for a long time. Her jaw tightened. It is the same as the old texts. Danil stepped forward. What does it mean? Why is this important? Almera looked at him. It means you should not exist. But you do. And that changes everything. Almera led Danil to a quiet garden on the palace's upper level. It was open to the sky, filled with glowing trees and soft white flowers, small birds with crystal feathers flew between the branches. It was peaceful, unlike the rest of the fortress. They sat on a stone bench near a small fountain. Water flowed in thin lines through floating rings. You are not just a man who crashed here, Almera said. You are something old, something dangerous. Danil leaned forward. I didn't ask to be this. I didn't even know it was inside me. I believe you, she said. But my council won't. Some already want you removed. I'm not here to fight your people, but they will fight you. Once they learn the truth. Danil looked around the quiet garden. So what do I do? Hide? No, she said. You must prove who you are through action. She stood and pointed to a tower in the distance. There is a trial ground there, not for war, but for understanding. You will face tests, not just strength, but control. We need to know if the flame inside you can be trusted. Danil nodded. All right, I'll do it. Almera gave him a long look. Good. Because I want to believe in you. I want to believe that the flame can rise again, but not as a weapon, as a bridge. The trial chamber was built inside a tall spire. It was open at the top, with natural light pouring through a circular hole. The floor was smooth black stone. Symbols were carved around the edge in a language Danil could not read. He stood at the center while watchers gathered above. Almera watched from a high balcony, silent but focused. The first test began with a beam of light shooting toward him. It moved fast. Danil dodged by instinct, barely avoiding it. Then another came from a different side, and another. He was forced to move, duck, and spin. The beams were not meant to harm, only to measure his reactions. A voice spoke from above. His reflexes are beyond standard. Then came the second test. The floor shifted. Large stone blocks rose from the ground. A mechanical voice spoke. Lift the pillar. Danil walked to the nearest one. It was heavy, but he placed both hands beneath it and pushed. His muscles burned. His back screamed. But slowly, the stone moved. The watchers murmured. He should not be that strong. Danil dropped the pillar and stepped back, breathing hard. Then the third test began. A holographic image of a wounded alien child appeared in front of him. A false battlefield surrounded them. A message appeared. Enemy soldiers are coming. The child is weak. Choose your action. Danil didn't wait. He lifted the image of the child into his arms and began running for cover. Even though it wasn't real, he moved as if it were alive. The trial ended. The room went quiet. The voice from above spoke again. Trial complete. That night, Danil sat on his bed, sore but awake. The test had pushed his body, but something inside him kept going. He didn't understand where it came from, but he knew it had always been there. A soft knock came at the door. It opened, and Almera stepped inside. You passed, she said simply. Danil looked at her. Was that enough to convince them? She shook her head. Some are more afraid now than before, but others saw what I saw. What's that? She stepped closer. You are not a weapon. You are a choice. Danil stood. A choice for what? For what comes next, she said. Because the enemy that once wiped out the flame may not be gone. Danil's eyes narrowed. You think they'll come back? I don't think, she said. I know, and when they do, we will need you. She left him with those words. Danil stood in silence, staring out the tall window, at the stars above. Whatever lived inside him was waking up, and the galaxy would soon feel it. Danil woke early. A soft chime echoed in his room, signaling the start of a new day in the palace. His body felt stronger. His muscles were no longer sore, and the scar across his chest had faded to a thin line. He stood in front of a polished metal mirror and stared at his reflection. He didn't look like someone who had barely survived a crash. He looked like someone who had never been broken. Guards came to escort him, but this time, there were no scans or tests. They led him to a quiet chamber near the eastern towers. The room had tall windows, long curtains, and walls lined with books and strange glowing tablets. Queen Almera was already there. Standing by the window, she wore a simple silver robe instead of her usual royal armor. Her long hair fell down her back like a dark river. She turned when she heard him. "You look better," she said. "I feel better," Danil replied. "Almost too good." She walked over to a table and poured him a cup of a warm drink. It smelled sweet, like fruit and herbs. "This is called Silent," she said. "It helps the mind stay clear. I drink it every morning." Danil took the cup and sat across from her. "Why am I here?" he asked. Almera looked down at the table. "Because I need to understand something. And I can't do that with trials or blood scans." Danil waited. She looked up again. "I want to know who you are, not just what you are." He nodded slowly. "All right, ask me anything." She leaned back in her chair. "Tell me about Earth. Is it true your people once traveled the stars?" "Yes, a long time ago, before I was born. Then something happened. Most of the colonies went silent. Earth focused on survival. And now you return," she said. "One ship, one man, a living piece of our oldest fear." Danil looked at her closely. "Do you fear me?" Almera was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, but not because I think you will destroy us. I fear what you mean for everything we thought we knew." She stood and walked to the window. "My people believe in power, strength above all. For centuries, we ruled by force. We survived by it, but you survived something different." Danil joined her at the window. The city spread out below them, towers of stone and light, flying machines crossing the sky, and people moving in orderly lines. "I survived because I refused to give up," Danil said. "I've seen war. I've lost people. But I keep going. Not for power, for hope." Almera looked at him. "That is why I brought you here. Not just to study you, but to learn from you." Danil was surprised. "You want to learn from me?" She nodded. "And I want my people to learn too, but not all agree." Later that day, Almera brought Danil to a training ground within the fortress walls. The space was wide and open, with curved platforms, moving walls, and floating drones. Soldiers in silver armor were training in groups, moving with precision. One of the commanders walked over. He bowed to Almera, then looked at Danil with sharp eyes. "This is Commander Varek," Almera said. "He leads the Blade Guard, our strongest warriors." Varek gave a short nod. "Your presence disturbs the old ones, human. They think you are a danger." Danil met his gaze. "And what do you think?" "I think you should prove your worth, in the old way." Almera stepped in. "This is not a fight for pride." Varek looked at her. "No, it is a fight for understanding." Danil removed his outer coat. "I'll do it, if it helps them see me clearly." The match was set inside a ring surrounded by energy walls. A crowd gathered to watch. No weapons were used, only strength, speed, and skill. Danil faced a young warrior named Kellen, tall and fast with sharp reflexes. When the signal sounded, Kellen moved first. He struck quick, aiming for Danil's side. Danil blocked, twisted, and responded with a sharp push. The crowd gasped as Kellen stumbled but recovered fast. The fight continued, blows exchanged. Counters delivered. Kellen was trained. Danil was determined. His moves weren't perfect, but his instincts were strong. He didn't give up. After minutes of intense motion, Danil landed a clean strike that sent Kellen to the ground. Silence followed. Then the crowd clapped in their own way, hands to chest, once, in rhythm. Varek stepped forward. His voice was steady. "You fight not with pride, but with purpose. I respect that." Almera smiled. "So do I." That night, Danil sat alone on a high balcony, looking at the stars. He thought about Earth, about the people he had left behind. He didn't know if they were watching, or if they even knew he was still alive. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Almera. She walked over and sat beside him. "You showed them something today," she said. "More than just skill." Danil looked at her. "I didn't come here to change your people. I just want to find a way home." She nodded. "I know, but perhaps your crash was not a mistake. Perhaps it was needed." Danil leaned on the rail. "Some say everything happens for a reason. I never really believed that, but now I'm starting to wonder. Almera looked up at the sky. The stars are quiet tonight. Danil smiled faintly. Where I come from, we say that means change is coming. She turned to him. Then we must be ready. In that quiet moment, no one spoke. The stars above shimmered, and the wind carried the scent of flowers from the garden below. For the first time since he arrived, Danil felt something strange. Peace. But deep inside. He also felt something else, an energy waking slowly, pulsing through his blood. The test had stirred it. The fight had called it, and he knew more was coming. The calm would not last. Not here. Not for long. The days passed slowly inside the stone walls of the fortress. Danil continued to train, meet the queen, and learn about the Relary people. He was not a prisoner anymore, but he was not free either. Most of the palace guards had accepted him, but some still watched him with doubt in their eyes. One morning, Danil woke before the light touched the towers. Something pulled at his thoughts, a strange feeling deep inside his chest. It wasn't pain or fear. It felt like a quiet voice, calling from somewhere far below. He dressed quickly and stepped into the hall. No guard stood outside his door this time. The corridor was empty. He followed the strange pull through the winding halls of the palace. As he moved deeper, the lights grew dim, the air cooler. He passed old stone arches and doors covered in dust. No servants walked here. No voices echoed. At the end of a narrow passage, he found a staircase leading down. He hesitated for a moment, then stepped onto the first step. The staircase curved sharply and led into the deep heart of the mountain. The walls changed from polished metal to ancient stone. Strange carvings marked the side, symbols he didn't recognize, shapes that almost looked like stars and fire. At the bottom, he found a heavy metal door. It stood partly open. He pushed it slowly and stepped inside. The room beyond was huge, its ceiling arched like the inside of a cathedral. Dim blue lights flickered along the edges. At the center of the room stood a tall platform, and on it, strange machine, part crystal, part metal, shaped like a ring. It looked untouched by time. Danil walked closer. On the platform, broken pieces of armor lay scattered. A tall banner hung above, faded and torn. The symbol on it made his heart beat faster. It was not a HELRE. It looked human. He reached out and touched one of the armor pieces. A sharp sound echoed across the chamber. Light surged through the floor. The ring machine came to life. Symbols appeared in the air. Danil stepped back as a soft voice spoke. Identified. Human signature. Code matches recorded lineage. Flame path active. The air around him shimmered. A glowing image appeared above the ring, an old man in armor, his voice clear but distant. If you see this, it means one of us still lives. Danil froze. We tried to save them. The image continued. But they feared us. The flame burned too bright. They destroyed what they didn't understand. We left this message for the last of our kind, so the truth would not vanish. Danil watched in silence as the image showed scenes of a forgotten war, giant machines, starships in flames, beings like himself fighting side by side. Then the image dimmed. Your blood carries the last spark. Protect it, and when the time comes, let it rise again. The machine shut down. The light faded. Danil stood alone. So it was true. He wasn't just a human scout. Something ancient lived inside him, a legacy he never knew about. He turned toward the door, but someone was standing there. It was Queen Almera. She had followed him. She walked into the chamber slowly, her eyes wide. She looked at the broken armor, the machine, the symbols in the stone. I've heard whispers about this place, she said. Even the oldest records call it forbidden. Danil faced her. You knew something like this existed. I suspected, but I didn't know it was real. She stepped closer to the ring. This proves everything. Danil looked at her. Now you believe I'm one of them. I believed you from the moment I saw your wound, but now others will believe too. He nodded. What do we do with this? Almera turned to him. We keep it hidden for now. If the council sees it, some will panic. Others will try to use it. Danil walked to the center of the platform. There was a message. From someone like me. They said, The flame was feared. She nodded slowly. My ancestors made that choice. They thought your kind would bring ruin. But they didn't see the full truth. Danil looked around the chamber. The flame is not just power. It's a responsibility. Yes, Almera said, and it may be the only hope we have. Later that day, the council gathered in the Hall of Voices. Danil stood beside Queen Almera. The High Council members sat in a half-circle, watching him closely. The lead counselor, a tall figure in blue robes, stood. We've seen the tests. We've heard the results. But what you ask, Your Majesty, is dangerous. To trust a human one marked by the ancient flame is not a small thing. Almera raised her head. I ask only for understanding. Danil has proven himself. He saved one of our guards during training. He risked injury for someone he didn't know. Kindness is not power, another counselor said. No, Almera replied. But it is strength of a different kind, one we need. The room grew quiet. Danil stepped forward. His voice was calm. I didn't choose this. I didn't know anything about the flame. But I'm here, and I'll help if you let me. The counselor in blue robes looked at him for a long time. You may not have chosen it, he said. But now you carry it. We will not stop you. But if danger comes, the blame will be yours. Almera nodded. I accept the risk. That evening, Danil walked through the gardens. The stars were out again. He looked up and wondered how far Earth was now. How many more secrets were buried across the galaxy? Almera joined him once more. You spoke well today, she said. They're afraid, Danil said. So was I. She answered, but not anymore. They walked in silence for a while. Danil turned to her. Do you think the old enemy is still out there? I do, she said. And if they return, we will face them, together. Danil looked at the sky again. He didn't know what was coming next, but now he had something he didn't before, a purpose, and a queen who believed in him. Dark clouds gathered above the Relary city as warnings echoed across the mountaintops. Soldiers ran through the palace, messengers carried urgent reports, and alarms lit the skies in red. Something had entered the atmosphere, something not of Relary. Danil stood beside Queen Almera on the watchtower. The sky above them churned, glowing orange with strange lights. What is it? Danil asked. A ship, Almera said. Not ours, and not yours, but we've seen it before. Danil narrowed his eyes. The old enemy, she nodded. The same ones who destroyed the ancient flame, the same ones who tried to wipe out your people. Danil's heart beat faster. He felt the strange warmth in his blood again. It pulsed, steady and strong, like a signal waiting to be answered. A guard ran up the steps. Your Majesty, the outer towers have spotted them. The ship is massive, and it's not alone. Almera's voice was steady. Prepare the defenses. Bring the council to the war hall. Danil turned to her. Let me go to the front line. You are not ready, she replied. I may not be ready, he said, but I'm not going to hide. She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, but you won't go alone. That night, Danil stood on the ramparts with Captain Rollo, the same guard who had once doubted him. Now they stood side by side, both wearing armor of the Relary Guard. You sure about this, human? Rollo asked. Danil smiled. I didn't come all this way to run now. Rollo handed him a curved blade. Then fight like one of us. Far ahead, across the Black Hills, the first ship descended. It was a massive dark vessel, shaped like a claw. Lights blinked along its sides, and strange machines dropped from its belly. Landing on the ground with loud thuds, from those machines came creatures tall, armored, and silent. Their eyes glowed red, and their weapons pulsed with blue fire. The battle began with a single horn. The Relary charged. Danil moved with them, blade in hand. The enemy fired, lighting up the hills. Explosions shook the earth. Still, the Relary kept running, fearless and united. Danil met the first of the creatures head-on. It swung a burning staff at him. Danil dodged and struck back. The blade sliced through the armor. Sparks flew. The creature fell. Another came. Then another. Danil moved faster now. The warmth in his chest grew stronger. Each strike felt more natural. His vision sharpened. Time slowed. It wasn't just strength. Something deeper had awakened. High above the battlefield, Queen Almera stood at the palace edge, watching the fight unfold. She saw Danil in the thick of it, glowing faintly in the dark, like a small star fighting against a storm. Beside her, the council stood silent. He's activating. One of them said. El Emir nodded. The flame is rising. Another counselor stepped forward. If he loses control, we could lose everything. We have more to lose if we do nothing, Almera replied. Back on the battlefield, Danil found himself surrounded. The enemies circled him. He raised his blade, but he was tiring. He had taken wounds, burns on his arms, a cut on his side. As the creatures closed in, a memory flashed in his mind, the ancient machine. The voice, protect the flame, let it rise. Danil dropped to one knee. The world around him slowed. He placed his hand on the ground. And then, the flame answered. A wave of golden light burst from him, knocking the enemies back. The ground cracked. Fire shot upward like a geyser. All across the battlefield, both Relary and enemy forces paused. Staring at the light, Danil stood again. His body glowed softly now, not burning, but steady. The creatures roared and rushed toward him. But he moved faster, stronger. He fought like a living storm. Queen Almera saw the burst of light from the palace tower. It's happening, she whispered. The old fear returned in the eyes of some counselors. But Almera stood firm. This is not the end, she said. It's the beginning. She turned to her guards. Send the sky ships. Aid our people. By morning, the battlefield was quiet. Smoke drifted in the wind. The enemy ships had retreated. Many Relary had fallen, but the city still stood. Danil walked through the field, wounded but standing. Rollo limped beside him. You saved us, Rollo said, shaking his head. I can't believe what I saw. Danil looked toward the palace. We're not finished. That was only the first wave. Back in the war chamber, the council listened as Queen Almera spoke. We survived this night, but we will not survive the next without unity. The flame has returned not to destroy us, but to protect us. Danil is not a danger. He is a shield. The lead counselor stepped forward. Then let the flame burn for us, not against us. Later, Danil stood on the palace balcony. The wind was cool. He looked out across the mountains, remembering the faces of those who had fallen. Queen Almera joined him. You did more than fight. Today, she said, you gave them hope. I didn't do it alone. Danil replied. She nodded. No, but only you could have lit the fire. They stood in silence for a while. Then Almera said, there is something else. The enemy, they were not just looking to conquer. What do you mean? Danil asked. They were scanning for something hidden. I believe they came for you. Danil's eyes narrowed. Then next time, we take the fight to them. The palace halls were quiet, but the silence was heavy. Danil walked slowly through them, still sore from the battle. His left arm was wrapped in bandages. The fire that had awakened inside him still pulsed softly, calm now but waiting. Queen Almera waited for him at the ancient circle chamber. Inside, glowing stone walls surrounded a flat platform. The circle was carved with strange symbols that shimmered like starlight. You asked for me, Danil said. Almera nodded. Yes, the council has agreed. You must go to the court chamber beneath the city. Danil stepped closer. What's in the court chamber? She looked at him with a serious face. The flame's beginning. The place where our oldest memory is kept, and possibly your origin. Danil didn't speak right away. He had always wondered why he was different, why the machines reacted to him, why the flame chose him. I'll go, he said. El Emir opened her hand, revealing a crystal key. You'll need this, but you must not go alone. Soon, Danil stood with 3 others near a hidden stone path deep below the palace. Captain Rollo, brave and battle-scarred, joined without hesitation. Scholar Marin, a quiet older woman, carried a tablet of old languages, and Almera herself stood with them, wearing simple armor instead of her royal robes. The group entered the tunnels. They walked for hours, guided by flickering lights. Strange patterns covered the walls, and the air was thick with energy. Danil felt it growing stronger the deeper they went. At last, they reached a giant stone door covered with marks from another age. Danil stepped forward and placed the crystal key in a glowing slot. The door opened with a sound like distant thunder. Inside was a massive chamber. At the center stood a circular platform, floating above a pool of light. Machines surrounded the walls, ancient and half alive. Danil stepped onto the platform. As soon as he did, the machines lit up. A deep voice echoed in the chamber. Not male, not female, just old, flame bearer. You have returned. Danil froze. What is this place? The voice answered, you are standing in the heart of the flame. You were created for this. You are the last design of those who came before. Almera stepped forward. Created? What do you mean? The voice continued. The flame was not just power. It was a memory, a defense, a chance. We placed it in him, in Danil, and now it rises again. Danil's heart pounded. He looked down at his hands. I'm not human, he asked. You are more, the voice said. You were born of earth, but shaped by us. We chose you before the fall. The flame kept you alive, hid you, and waited. The chamber shook. Rollo stepped toward the edge. Something's coming. Marin pointed to a wall display lighting up. Another enemy ship, heading toward the core. Danil turned to the others. They followed us here. They knew. The voice returned. Then it is time. You must unlock the final gate. Only you can do it. Only you can carry the full flame. The platform lit with bright light. Danil stepped into the center. The ground beneath him shifted. Symbols appeared under his feet. Pain shot through his body, then vanished. In its place came strength. Not just physical, but clear understanding. He saw the war. He saw the machines. He saw the people who made the flame long ago. And he saw their warning. They won't stop, he said, breathing hard. Not unless I stop them myself. Almera stepped beside him. You won't be alone. He looked at her. No. But I have to lead this. Outside the chamber, the enemy forces landed. The same creatures from before, only larger and more advanced. They moved quickly, breaking through walls and blasting the ground. But this time, Danil met them with the full power of the flame. He stepped into the battlefield. Wrapped in light, his blade glowing, Rollo and the palace guard followed. Almera led the shield line. Marin activated the defense towers with old commands. Fire rained from the sky, but it didn't touch them. Danil raised his hand, and a wall of energy rose around the city. Then he ran forward, straight into the center of the enemy army. The battle was fierce. Fire met metal. Light met shadow. Danil fought without fear. The power inside him answered his every move. He jumped higher, struck faster, blocked every attack. The enemy began to fall back, unsure and shaken. One last figure appeared taller, darker, a commander from the old enemy. It raised a strange staff and fired at Danil. Danil was hit, thrown back, but he stood again, wounded, eyes burning with golden fire. You should not exist. The commander said. Danil answered. That's what your kind said the first time. Then he rushed forward. The final fight was short. One strike, two, then a burst of golden light. The commander fell. The enemy ships retreated. The sky cleared. Danil stood in the center of the field. The ground beneath him was scorched, but life remained. The battle was over. Days passed. The relay began to rebuild. The flame core was protected again. In the palace, Danil met with the council. You are one of us now, the lead counselor said. Danil shook his head. No, I'm not Relary. I'm not only human. I'm something in between. Almera smiled. That's exactly what we need. The people celebrated. Stories spread of the human who carried the flame. But Danil didn't stay in the palace. He traveled, helping villages, calming wounded lands. People followed him not out of fear, but because he gave them hope. One evening, Danil stood on the palace balcony again, beside Almera. The flame woke something in all of us. She said, not just you. He looked at the stars. I think I was always meant to find this place, to become who I am. She placed a hand on his shoulder. And what are you now? Danil thought for a moment. A protector, a spark, a second chance. And above them, the sky glowed brighter than ever before.